same old formula, familiar flavor. Season 12 of the US alone is about to drop. This time, the producers didn't pick a cold, wet Arctic Circle location. They moved to the brutal, scorching Karu Desert in South Africa. The good news? No more freezing winds, no deep snow to deal with. The bad news? Water, once easy in past seasons, is now a major problem. Food sources still include fish in the lake, plus plenty of small and mid-sized mammals on land. The real danger? Venomous snakes and aggressive predators. 10 contestants, each with 10 limited items. Whoever lasts wins $500,000. So let's not waste time. It begins as the production helicopter drops each contestant at their starting point. First up is female contestant Kelsey. She lives a semi-primitive life in Montana, off-grid with her boyfriend, powered by solar panels. Water comes from rain collection, firewood fuels their fires. Kelsey is skilled at hunting, trapping, and fishing. She also works in wildlife protection. She joined the show to prove women can be just as tough. If she wins the prize, she'll expand her animal rescue work and improve her modest life back home. With daytime temps in the Karu near 100 degrees Fahrenheit, producers placed contestants near a lake. Kelsey is happy about that. She quickly decides to camp near the shoreline. Water is key. Just arriving, she feels the place is unfamiliar. Bow in hand, she scouts the nearby area first. The Karu is wide open plains, low shrubs, and limestone-covered hills. She wants to know every resource around her camp, plants and animals alike, learn their patterns and habitats to build a long-term survival plan. She finds a wide area full of baboon tracks, large primates, highly territorial, even aggressive toward humans. Then she spots fresh baboon droppings on rocks, clear signs they're close. She hears noise from the opposite hillside and sees a troop of baboons. Before arrival, producers warned them to be careful with these animals, so Kelsey doesn't plan to start trouble, but she also needs them to know this mountain is her ground now. She shouts loudly toward the troop. Surprisingly, it works. Kelsey says she's faced grizzlies 3 times. Like she's not afraid of African buffalo or rhinos. Those don't scare her. Only baboons do. Smart and cooperative. Back at the lake, she finds a thorny acacia tree, great for blocking animal attacks, so she decides to camp under it. First dinner in the wild, roasted cactus. Baboon calls echo through the night. She feels uneasy. Next morning, she wakes at 10:30. The baboons haven't returned. She shakes off yesterday's worries, gets dressed, and heads out to hunt. She feels Africa is full of game. This season might be easier than expected. Unlike past seasons, she doesn't have to live on berries and mushrooms. Soon, Kelsey finds a rocky path. Following it, she reaches the ridge. This time, she spots an antelope on the hillside. Above it is the same baboon troop from yesterday. Sadly, she can't take the shot. Under local law, large game requires a 60-pound draw bow. Hers is only 50 pounds. But she doesn't lose hope. Otters are active here, so other animals must be close. Then she hears something but sees nothing at first. She stays still. Any loud move could spook the prey. After a long, patient wait, the animal steps out. It's a wild boar. Luck is on her side. Boar are legal to hunt here. She switches into tracking mode. After closing the distance, she draws, steady and focused. The boar screams as the arrow hits. To end its suffering fast, she fires again, straight through. The second hit is fatal. The boar drops. She's proud of the hunt, a near 200-pound animal. On day 2, she just leveled up her survival game. But the victory doesn't last long. Getting the boar back to camp is a problem. At first, she tries to stuff it into her pack. Only part of the hindquarter fits, and it's way too heavy anyway. The heat will spoil the meat fast. No time to waste. She guts it under the hot sun to cool it and cut weight. Then removes all 4 legs, packs what she can, and shoulders the rest. After hauling it 800 meters to camp, barely catching her breath, she starts building a smoking rack. She finds green, flexible branches, hard to burn, sets up a tripod frame, ties crossbars inside, simple but effective. Next, she cuts a fatty slab. That's tonight's dinner. To keep flies off, she wraps the rest in a tarp, keeps it close at night, ready with her bow if anything comes near. Still, for a 200-pound boar, this small rack won't be enough. If she wants proper preservation, she'll need a bigger smokehouse, like the build from Season 8. She works until 5 p.m. The roasted meat smells rich. One bite is crispy, maybe a bit overdone. Another cut is perfect. Fat crackles as she chews. Wild boar tastes stronger than farm pork, slightly sour, a bit gamey, but that's fine out here. While eating, she remembers the salt in her pack, one of her 10 chosen survival items. And in this desert heat, she'll sweat hard, losing electrolytes, so salt here matters even more than in the Arctic. In the end, salted pork ribs taste amazing. Ellie feels like she isn't even in a competition. It feels like she's still back home in Montana. The second contestant is Katie. She runs an outdoor survival school. She sees herself as an all-rounder, bow hunting, fishing, handcrafts, and trapping. Building shelter, drilling fire, she can do it all. Katie lives on Australia's east coast, where it's also hot and dry. She thinks her edge is more drought survival experience than the others. Teaching survival doesn't pay much. She's been at it 25 years and still can't buy a house. So she joins this solo survival challenge to win the prize money. After landing and setting up the basics, Katie drinks water and wonders how the other contestants are doing. Has anyone scored a big breakthrough yet? Then she sees a fish jump in the lake. Boy, that's all she needs. She goes fishing right away, hoping for a lucky catch. By the time her quick camp is up, it's dark. The first night still feels restless. At 11 p.m., she checks her line and finds a fish on it. She can't stop smiling. Right on the lakeshore, she scales it and guts it, roasts it over the fire until crisp outside, cooked through, and digs into a fish feast. The next morning, she feels full of energy. Katie finds a tree loaded with pods. The seeds are solid nutrition, a good source of protein and fiber. She wants food variety out here, so if hunting fails, she can still hold out and not go hungry. While foraging, she catches an animal's smell. At first, she doesn't think much of it, until she sees a shape moving in the brush to her left. Katie stops what she's doing and creeps closer with her bow and arrow. Soon, a wild boar bursts out, but she doesn't shoot. She says the timing isn't right. If she makes noise and spooks it, that boar may avoid this area for good. Following its escape route, Katie finds an animal trail. That's a huge breakthrough for her. She plans to hide in the brush on both sides and set up an ambush. Looks like the women this season are no joke. The third contestant is Zid. Since he found survival skills young, he's been hooked. Zid has traveled all over the world and finally settled in scenic New Zealand. He's worked in survival education for 9 years and once ran a survival-focused charity. $500,000 is life-changing money, enough to buy land and build a home and live easier with his wife. Near his drop point are grasslands, brush, and rocky hills. The view is honestly beautiful, and there are lakes not far away. While scouting, he spots cactus. To others, it's just a plant, but Zid sees more. He also runs into a baboon, and it seems they're everywhere in this area. He keeps his distance. After checking a few spots, Zid decides to fish the lake. This is his main survival plan. Fish first, gather edible plants, then hunt. An unlucky praying mantis gets used as bait, but the fishing session doesn't go smoothly. He waits a long time, and still no big fish bites the hook. Then he snags his line on the bottom and can't pull it free. Luckily, this isn't the freezing Arctic. The lake is warm, so Zid wades in and gets the hook back. No fish for dinner tonight. He suddenly thinks about using cactus, cuts it up, and lays it on his entrenching shovel to roast, then scrapes off the spines with a knife. He tastes it, and it's not bad. That little bit of food lifts his mood. He throws up a quick shelter before dark. Before building something bigger, Zid wants to see if he can find real food here. So, can he find food or not? On day 3, Zid wakes up in his shelter, hungry, saying he could live off cactus. But that's not why he joined the show. The plan is still to find bait and fish the lake. South Africa has about 20 kinds of freshwater crabs. Zid starts flipping rocks by the shore, but there aren't any crabs under them. Before he can even find proper bait, he suddenly gets a brutal stomach cramp. It hits so fast he can't move. He guesses it's from untreated lake water, or maybe from eating cactus. Either way, his run ends early. That night, he gets diarrhea and throws up. Then his whole body aches, and he's freezing till morning, and the symptoms don't improve. He wanted to push a few more days, but another wave of pain hits, and he quits. He grabs the phone and calls production to tap out. Honestly, he doesn't match that South Asian look at all. Indian folks are tough as nails. They bathe in and drink from the Ganges every day and stay fine. Zid goes out once and his system shuts down. The fourth contestant is Will. He runs a ranch raising rare animals. Many species that are gone in their home countries still exist on his ranch. Breeding and selling them pays him well. Will loves primitive living. Over time, he's learned plenty of hunting skills. He joins to win the $500,000 so his wife and kids can live better. After he lands, Will is hyped but uneasy. That's normal for contestants at the start, a common headspace. He tries to calm down first, staring at the muddy lake water. Will wraps a pot with a cloth to strain out the bigger debris. Back at camp, he sparks a fire with a ferro rod, sets up a tripod, hangs the pot over the flames, and boils it clean. Will knows this place is hot and windy. That can dehydrate you fast. He needs enough fresh water so his body doesn't crash, meaning at camp he must always have cooled, boiled water or a pot boiling on the fire. While he waits, Will sets a fishing line. Maybe dinner will be fish, but that's just hope. That night, animal calls echo around camp. Will pulls the fire closer to himself. Desert nights can drop to around freezing. It keeps him warm and scares off anything lurking in the dark. Next morning at 9 a.m., Will spots a troop of baboons on a nearby ridge. He figures his camp is in their area. It might be the trail they use to come drink water. But he can't just move camp. Still, he wants to grab his bow and head over to drive them off and scout a few hunting spots. On this trip, when he reaches the top of the hill, we'll see something on the right, 2 African buffalo, the so-called widowmakers, and about 50 meters away, a zebra. But it's on high alert. Even with Will hiding in brush, it spots him and bolts in a flash. But the zebra isn't on the contestant's legal hunting list. He's not ready yet anyway. This trip is mainly to learn the hunting ground. The 5th contestant is Pablo. He lives in Florida and has a lot of standout skills. In 1980, he fled Cuba with his parents as a refugee coming to the U.S. That year, the U.S. passed a law aimed at pushing back against Cuba's regime. The main point was granting permanent residency to Cubans who lived 1 full year on U.S. soil. The move was meant to attract Cuba's middle class and top talent, but Cuba's leader at the time, Castro, played it to his advantage, sending people from mental hospitals on criminals and drug users nationwide. Even sex workers were sent to the U.S. The total was about 150,000 people, and most landed in Florida. So today, Florida is known for a lot of unusual talent. Pablo can't stop praising the scenery out here, but you can't eat views. He keeps moving, scouting hard, because this area has venomous snakes. Crossing a rocky stretch, Pablo uses a stick to probe the ground. He's already seen the lake water has bacteria and microbes. In the Karu desert, drinking water is a problem you can't ignore. So he decides to dig a hole near the shore, using soil as a natural filter, then boiling the water. After soil filtering should make it as safe as possible. The shoreline soil is soft and the water table is high. Only digs about 30 centimeters before water starts seeping in. Later, he can draw from this well for a steady supply of filtered water. By 5 p.m., Pablo has a quick shelter and a stone fire pit built. Animal calls go all night, so he can't sleep. Next morning, thirsty, he heads back to the lake, but the water level rose and flooded his soil pit. He doesn't have time to dig a new one and wait, so he wraps a pot with a cloth, filters the lake water like Will did. Boiling it solves the urgent dehydration problem. In just 2 days, Pablo feels how hard this season is. What used to be easy water is now a hard puzzle, and it hits everyone's condition. The Karu looks like it has plenty of game for long-term food, but the water and the heat are the real problem, putting contestants on a thin line between heaven and hell. Same recipe, same familiar flavor, Season 12 hits hard. Someone lands and hooks a big, tasty fish, and by day 2, drops a big wild boar, pushing life out here to a whole new level. They've already pulled almost 30 kilos of fresh meat, but it's way too early to call a winner. Even if the Karu in South Africa has lots of animals, you still can't underestimate the rest of the field. We've introduced the first 5 contestants. Next, let's see what the other 5 can do. Nathan grew up in Idaho, USA. He comes from a survival family. His dad wrote a best-selling outdoor survival book that sold nationwide. With that influence, Nathan is skilled at a lot of survival basics. His older brother competed in Season 10. He did great, but had to tap out from a parasite infection. Right now, Nathan runs a software company. In his free time, he goes into the wild to reset. He joined this season to honor his father through the experience. Not long after landing, Nathan starts fishing. This season, the rules allow live bait. Before, contestants could only use lures. Nathan spots a grasshopper in the grass. With one quick move, he catches it. His main plan is simple: get full first. He doesn't know the plants and animals in the Karu well, so eat enough comes first. And as for long-term hunting targets, he still hasn't picked one. Right now, he's setting a trot line by the lake. That way, while he works, he has a steady shot at food coming in. Using time well is everything out here. Near his spot, there's a patch of grass. It's perfect bedding material. He hauls the dry grass into the shade under a tree. This campsite was picked carefully. The backside blocks the sun and cuts the daytime heat. This time of year, the Karu rarely gets rain. So he figures a big shelter isn't worth it. Time and energy saved can go straight into getting food. After the bed is done, he heads back to the lake at sunset to check the line. Turns out that grasshopper is deadly bait. He hauls up a goldfish close to 2 kilos. A lucky start like that is a great sign. Next morning at 9, Nathan takes his bow up the mountain. That fish wasn't nearly enough. Now it's in his stomach, turned into calories. If he wants to keep eating, he has to hunt. First, he tosses a pinch of dust to check the wind. The wind is blowing right to left. That means if he stays along the base of the mountain, animals on the slope won't catch his scent. In Africa, learning to beat your own smell is critical. If you don't, you'll never get close. Even with a bow, you won't do real damage. On this run, he sees plenty, including a herd of fat deer. but they spot him hiding in the brush. Both sides just freeze and stare. No shot, no damage. That's how sharp African animals are. It makes Nathan trust his future plan. Fishing will be his long-term, high-quality food source. There are lots of antelope, but hunting them is tough. And in this heat, keeping meat from spoiling is another big problem, so he thinks it through and uses the time to prep, waiting until things are stable before making a big move. Contestant 7 is Cotton. On his first night, he checks his fishing line. At first, he planned to move it closer to camp, but the payoff comes faster than expected. Cotton pulls up a 9-kilo African catfish from the lake. If nothing goes wrong, he won't have to worry about food for the next 5 days. Once it gets dark, he cuts the whole catfish into long strips, then he hangs them in a tree to dry. He doesn't smoke the meat because this style of air-dried meat has been made locally for thousands of years. The wilderness air here is very dry, so warm wind pulls the moisture out fast. That alone can preserve it for a long time. Cotton works as a carpenter, but he sees himself as a hunter. He says he killed his first squirrel at 3 years old. After that, he couldn't stop. He's been hunting with a traditional bow ever since. From rabbits to bears and caribou, everything has fallen to his arrows. Cotton believes his archery skill will pay off in Africa. Finding food is the only truth in survival. He joined the show for the prize money, so afterward he can live an easier life with his girlfriend. At 8 the next morning, he adds a roof. Long-term living won't be, he adds a roof, long-term living won't be a problem. While the morning cold is still hanging on, Cotton heads out to scout. The main goal of this trip is to learn the local plants and animals. The Karu Desert in South Africa is new to every contestant. He knows nothing about the wildlife habits here. So for now, his plan is to watch from a distance. But what happens next disappoints him. 2 antelope bolt away from 60 meters out. Cotton misjudged it. He thought the wind noise would cover him. Turns out the animals here are that alert. On day 3, monkeys on the mountain wake him up. Cotton suspects he camped on their regular drinking route, but he isn't scared. He even thinks if they mess with him, he'll grab his bow and walk right up. If food comes to you, there's no reason to fear it. Even though that catfish is a huge win, he isn't satisfied. Cotton wants red meat from big game. So he takes his bow back up the mountain early again. This time he spots a large antelope, but it turns and runs from 300 meters away. That leaves Cotton feeling powerless. He realizes he's like a player on the field, and the animals are the crowd in the stands. They watch his every move like they can see right through him. In that situation, getting a kill is truly hard. So he makes the smart call, heads back, and cooks the catfish head for lunch while the main meal simmers. He uses his multi-tool as a spoon. When the head is soft from simmering, he takes a spoonful and notices it's still slimy. No surprise, he spits it out right away. It's grease floating on the surface. Fatty, slick, fishy, and thick. No way he can drink that. Cotton loses interest in the head soup immediately. He figures maybe he can force it down later when he's starving, but not right now. Contestant 8 is Dusty, age 54. He's a web designer who also loves hands-on craft work. He can make a lot of primitive tools, and he knows plenty of backcountry survival skills, like bow drill fire, trapping, and archery. Tracking and ambushing comes naturally to him. He joined the contest to see if years of skill and experience would hold up in real conditions. He ate some berries and water moss near the starting point. Then he lit a fire, boiled water, and collected 10 branches. Around his shelter, he built a fence to keep animals out. After finishing those steps smoothly, he noticed the mountainside nearby. A shadow was watching him from up there. Turns out it was a black and white zebra-like animal. Local rules forbid hunting it. So he couldn't do anything about it. There were still 2 to 3 hours before dark. He took his bow and headed south, hoping to find some prey. Best case, a tapir or a porcupine along the trail. He came across a stream. Water like this draws animals in. But what he didn't expect was a crab in the stream. South Africa has nearly 20 kinds of freshwater crabs, but in a hot, dry desert, seeing one is still surprising. He couldn't use an arrow to pin it, so he simply stepped on it to hold it down. Then he caught another one nearby. This trip counted as a small win. Those 2 crabs gave about 80 calories and 18 grams of protein. After giving thanks, he went back and mixed the crab with the greens he gathered, plus water moss leaves, and cooked it into a pot, a meal with both meat and vegetables. Not to mention he even used chopsticks, real classy. Honestly, this menu sounds like something you'd only get at a high-end restaurant. Contestant number 9 is named Baha. He was born in a former Soviet republic, Kyrgyzstan. He served in a border patrol unit back home. During his service, Baha trained hard, including wilderness survival skills. After the Soviet Union collapsed, he moved to Canada. Now his family relies fully on farming and part-time work at a railway company. He joined the contest for one reason, to win the $500,000 prize. If he wins, he'll build a new house, pay off his debts, and improve his family's tough living situation. To judge the starting area properly, Baha stuck a stick in the ground and made a simple sun clock. When the shadow moves past a certain angle, he can easily tell direction. To the east, where the sun rises, there's a mountain. That means if he camps here, he'll face longer cold mornings. This climate feels a lot like his homeland, pretty similar to Kyrgyzstan, hot enough to get baked in the day, freezing at night. So he planned to hike to a valley to set camp, even though it meant walking 3 kilometers under harsh sun. The payoff would be more sustainable. Along the way, Baha found lots of tracks and droppings from buffalo. South African buffalo are called widowmaker, aggressive by nature, killing 200 people every year. He didn't want to provoke them, and besides, the organizers don't allow hunting big game. Around 4 p.m., Baha reached the spot. It was close to water, too. There were rocks on land and driftwood everywhere. Plant cover was heavier than at the start. For survival, this place was clearly better. By now, Baha was thirsty. He didn't bring a fire starter for the contest. He figured the Karu desert is hot and dry, so making fire with a bow drill shouldn't be hard, and he could use his remaining item picks on something else. That would give him a small edge over the others, but to actually win it, you absolutely have to be able to make fire. Baha used dead acacia as his material. The cord he brought was braided rope. Its breaking strength was only 90 pounds, less than 1/5 of paracord, but the total length was 6 times longer. He felt, in this environment, like he didn't need super strong rope. Braided cord would be enough, and he could carry a lot more length, too. After making the bow and drill, Baha started grinding. If nothing goes wrong, something will. He struggled until sunset and still got nothing. The problem was the acacia was too dense and too hard. Wood that works best for fire drilling is usually medium density. That night, Baha could only sleep without all 4 survival basics. The next day, he picked up a dry antelope dropping as a base. Sure, dry animal dung can be fuel, but it obviously can't be a fireboard. A few spins of the drill and it fell apart inside, and right as Baha was sighing, he saw, on a tree a few dozen meters away, a monkey staring straight at him, like it was saying, "What is this idiot doing?" He couldn't tell which wood had the right hardness, so he started testing nonstop. Baha's body was slipping into dehydration. If he still had no fire today, it wouldn't be long before he had to tap out. That's how heavy the pressure was. But he had his family to carry. Baha kept pulling the bow, his throat almost burning dry, and finally, hard work paid off for the one who won't quit. He used a random piece of wood and drilled out sparks. That flame meant real hope. The moment he finally drank cold water, all the misery disappeared at once. On day 3, Baha was fired up. He wanted to finish camp before hunting for food. He already had the shelter designed in his head. Baha cut 3 young willow poles, about 4 meters long, and used them to build a tripod frame. Tie on the tarp, and the big job is done. The shelter was simple and light, built for desert conditions, and easy to take down anytime and move. The last contestant showed up. Douglas, a primitive skills instructor with over 35 years of survival experience. Skilled hands, making all kinds of unique primitive tools. He joined the contest for the prize money to give his family a better life. Hunting in Africa has been his dream for a long time, so for this contest, Douglas feels grateful and excited deep down. After days of sleeping on the ground, he didn't want to keep doing that, so he found a bent tree with lots of branches. He planned to build a shelter up in the tree to stay away from venomous insects and predators below, and also avoid the harsh daytime sun. 2 birds with 1 stone. At around 5 p.m., he suddenly heard sounds near camp, a burst of animal noises. Douglas tensed up immediately. He suspected it was an African buffalo or a rhino, but he circled the area and couldn't spot anything. That night, he heard sounds in camp again. Too bad it was pitch black outside. He couldn't see a thing. Not until he fell asleep did the camera catch that it was a rhino. At first light the next day, Atlas couldn't wait. He grabbed his bow and headed out. He came to a big muddy wallow. No surprise, there were tons of animal tracks here. As he drank water, a little rush of excitement hit him. In the desert, your body loses a lot of electrolytes. Douglas didn't bring any salt with him, but animal blood contains salt. Given the situation, he felt he had a chance to hunt later, solve the food problem, and also get salt from their blood. Honestly, he was still thinking too simply. Back to Chutan's side, last night the tarp tore, and he fell to the ground. If the hammock breaks, he has to find a new, more solid shelter. He looked around and only saw loose rocks and bushes. There were almost no big trees for shelter. He walked for a long time before finding a decent spot. He planned to build under this tree canopy. At that point, Chutan couldn't handle the loneliness. Cut off from modern life, No contact with anyone, that discomfort hit harder than any physical crash. Even though he likes survival and being alone, in 4 days he still had food to eat. He didn't even know what to do with all the food. Fish meat hung on a thorny acacia made the whole camp smell fishy. Even his hands smelled bad. Thinking back to the fish head soup he drank yesterday, Chutan threw up right away. He said he'd never eaten anything that disgusting. Now, the whole camp and his body reeked of fish. He felt every cell in his body rejecting this place. That new feeling of the contest was totally gone, replaced by despair from the inside. Der bottom line, nothing made him happy. Chutan called the organizers to tap out. He said he suddenly felt depressed. Plainly put, he wasn't like Baha, pushing through for his family, and he couldn't stand up to the isolation. It was just a short-term thrill, so he wasted his shot in this contest. The American version of Alone had entered a new chapter. This time, the organizers didn't pick a cold, wet Arctic location. Food was no longer grouse, wild rabbits, berries, or mushrooms. When the setting moved to the Karu Desert in South Africa. On the surface, there seemed to be plenty of game, and water didn't even seem hard to find. Someone dropped a wild boar over 10 kilograms on day 2. Someone else easily hooked a fish over 10 kilograms. But real conditions weren't as easy as they looked. The heat and dryness were no paradise. After just 4 days, 2 contestants had already quit. What other surprises will happen next? Let's keep watching. Time jumps back to early morning on day 3. Will got ready to kill a scorpion trapped under a rock, using it as bait to fish by the lake. Before he moved, he showed the audience something cool. He turned off the light and switched on the show's UV lamp, provided free to the contestants, and the scorpion showed up clearly under the ultraviolet light. All because its outer shell contains fluorescent compounds that absorb UV and then glow in a way humans can see. The production team considered this, so they provided UV lights to help protect them from scorpion attacks. Next, Will used a dagger to cut off the stinger and claws, then went to the shore and started casting his line. He fished at night because daytime heat was brutal. You can't stand being under that sun, and catfish are more active at night. He stuck with it from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. Saw before he got a hit, he landed a catfish weighing about 1 kilo, even though it wasn't as big as the one Chutan caught. At least those 3 hours of waiting weren't wasted. In everyday life, Will doesn't like eating anything from the water, but catching catfish now was purely for survival. He knew it was a way to win the contest, the most important source of fat and protein, so even if he hated it, he had to push through. After all, not everyone gets a shot at $500,000. He gutted the catfish and pulled out the organs, skewered it on a stick, and set it over the fire. In just 20 minutes, it was golden outside and tender inside. Will tore off a piece, hesitated, then put it in his mouth. It tasted better than he expected, just a bit chewy, and it didn't have that fishy smell at all. Way better than that stewed fish head. Before long, only the skeleton was left. At noon the next day, Will threw rocks at birds in the tree. No question, he couldn't hit them. He figured he'd try anyway. The energy from yesterday's catfish was already gone. Right now he still felt pretty good. But food was still urgent. He couldn't relax. So he took his bow and hiked up the mountain, hoping to drop a big animal. After who knows how long, he saw a few water antelope jump out on the hillside. Will caught that strong, musky smell from their scent glands, but sadly the animals stayed far away. He kept searching around the mountains. Soon, one antelope came into view. Will tried to close the distance and waited for a clean shot, but there was no fooling it. Another one popped out of the bushes. They scanned the area and warned each other. He realized stalking in close was almost impossible. Only option was to hide and hope they came to him. Problem is, Will didn't have a water bottle. After a while, he had to head back to camp to refill. So even with animals around, he couldn't do much. It really got to him. On day 2 of the contest, he had been within 15 to 20 meters of an antelope, but he didn't shoot because he thought he couldn't preserve that much meat. He planned to wait a few days until he was settled. Now, look at him. He wanted to hunt, but had no chance. Odd with no other option, Will thought about using cactus. First, he cut the cactus, held it over the fire to burn off the spines, then he chopped it up and tossed it into a pot. On top of that, Will gathered some acacia seeds, the only edible plant he could find nearby. After cooking it, Will reluctantly tasted it. He described the cactus flavor as kind of like mung beans mixed with sweet pepper, and the yellow seeds and acacia seeds were similar. They tasted like chocolate and raisins. He shoved cactus and acacia seeds into his mouth in one go, hoping he wouldn't get a stomachache tomorrow. And with this roast and boil method, it should be fine. But what Will feared most still happened. He didn't even have to wait until tomorrow. By 10:30 p.m., he felt sick and started gasping. Right after that, he began vomiting violently, and there was a lot of blood mixed in. Clearly, the cactus had injured his stomach. As time passed, it got worse and worse. The crew received Will's emergency rescue signal, a button contestants only press in a life-threatening situation to save their life. It was the first time in 12 seasons someone had used it. In that case, medical staff respond immediately. When they arrived, Will was barely hanging on, eyes shut tight. His breathing and heartbeat were both very weak. The doctor kept talking to him nonstop and started an IV right there on site. Then they barely pulled him back from death. In the end, Will was diagnosed with acute colitis, possibly from eating a toxic cactus. The scene cuts to Kylie. She found a pig den up in the mountains, and several pigs rushed out of the hole. She stood at the entrance but didn't make a move. At that point, Kylie already had 50 kilograms of fresh pork. She couldn't be sure more meat wouldn't spoil. Right now, the number one task was finding drinking water. In the brutal heat of the Karu desert, such contestants have to keep topping up water to stay moving. Out of Kylie's 10 tools, she only had one cooking pot, so she decided to build a rock water reservoir. While gathering rocks, Kylie spotted a frog hiding underneath. For someone else, that would have been fishing bait, but Kylie wasn't short on food for now, so it got lucky and lived. Building the reservoir was simple. Stack rocks into a hollow circle, lay the tarp inside. Now you can boil multiple pots at once and store the water. When finally, cover it with the tarp and weigh it down with rocks to reduce evaporation. The pork was smoked and dried bit by bit. After all that work, she was hungry. Kylie took a few pieces of jerky and sat by the lake, eating good food and enjoying the view. Other contestants were stressing about food. Kylie was winning right from the start. At least she wouldn't be hungry for 20 days. The next morning, when she went out, she picked up 2 skulls. Nothing beats that for camp decor. Because of that, Kylie decided to build a shelter today. The Karu isn't like the cold Arctic. She didn't plan anything fancy. Oh, just something good enough to sleep in. Kylie used 6 small branches to make 2 tripod frames. She set one end of 2 thicker logs on the bank and the other ends on the tripods. Then she covered it with the tarp and pinned it down with antelope skulls. Done. Honestly, it was super rough. Kylie even built it on a dry riverbed because the sand there felt softer and she wouldn't have to waste time clearing rocks. Rocks are hiding spots for venomous snakes and scorpions. If you get bitten while moving stones, you'd probably have to tap out. But a riverbed this wide in the Karu means there's been major flooding before. If a sudden storm hits, Kylie's shelter could easily get washed away. Now, let's check on Douglas. His shelter progress was smooth and he was happy with it. But gathering firewood, making fire, and boiling water took too much time. He could keep plenty of drinking water, but had little time left to find food. To fix that, Douglas decided to make a water container. He found a dried cactus. Its root was big and round, perfect for holding water. He cleaned the root with a knife, quick and simple. Then he carried the whole dead cactus back to camp and set it on the fire. Because he didn't bring a saw, a trunk that thick was too hard to cut with a knife, so he chose to burn it and snap it instead. In the end, after a few rounds of shaping, Douglas ended up with a container that held about 6 liters of water. The contest had reached day 5. Pablo didn't do what the others did, using live animals as bait. Like past seasons, he used a multi-tool to make an artificial lure. Oh, and for a rod, maybe he couldn't find a good straight branch, so he just grabbed the line spool and walked into the lake. Sadly, it didn't work out well. He couldn't cast the line very far. He stood there for 2.5 hours with no bites. Pablo got baked in the sun and turned thirsty. He rushed back to camp, lit a fire, and boiled water. From boiling to cool enough to drink took over half an hour. Not long after he finished the pot, he was thirsty again. More and more, Pablo realized how hard it was to keep enough water. But he didn't immediately think about making a water container. Instead, he focused on building a long-term shelter. He planned a half-moon shape, digging a few holes in the ground, burying the branches he'd just cut, bending them over into a rounded dome. I'd then just cover it with a tarp and call it done. It wasn't even that much work, but before he finished digging, he was already exhausted. That afternoon, sun was brutal. Now he felt desperate for water again. He might have been getting heat stroke. Pablo felt dizzy, nauseous, and drained. The non-stop thirst made him miserable. To be blunt, this survival contest was way harder than it looked. After a few minutes of thinking, Pablo felt his skills couldn't beat this environment. So immediately, he made the call and tapped out. Wild survival is like the Olympics of the outdoor survival world. The new American Season 12 launched in a place nobody expected. People thought the Karu Desert in South Africa, full of game, would be the promised land. Some contestants went hunting and even took down animals over 100 kilos. The competition ended up more intense than any season before, but the results shocked everyone. In less than a week, 4 contestants had already quit. Some got poisoned from handling cactus the wrong way. Others got dehydrated, heat sick, and lost their resolve. Bottom line, survival in South Africa's Karoo Desert was far harder than anyone predicted. But there were standouts too, like Kylie, who dropped a pig on day 2, and Nathan with a traditional survival background, plus Baha and Katie, all strong-willed competitors. How will things unfold next? Let's find out. After seeing how hard hunting is in South Africa, Nathan shifted his focus to fishing for now. But the catfish in this lake aren't normal. They kept snapping his line, and he lost 5 hooks. Don't contestants only get 25 hooks in their fishing kit? If this keeps up, he'll lose them all sooner or later. Right now, he urgently needs new bait, so Nathan went to a rocky area, planning to flip stones and see what was underneath. Before long, he found a scorpion. After using a dagger to cut off the stinger, he even thought about eating it. Because to most people, it's a venomous creature you don't touch, but to Nathan, it's just protein. Still, he wasn't desperate enough yet. Before fishing again, he had to upgrade his line. Each fishing line only had a 30-pound test, so Nathan tied the lines between 2 trees, then used a stick to twist them together. 4 lines became 1, boosting strength up to 120 pounds. More he clipped on his biggest hook. Now those giant lake catfish wouldn't snap it so easily. By then it was 3:30 p.m. While walking, Nathan spotted camp and saw a rat running around nearby. Right away, he got a wild idea. Catch the rat and use it as catfish bait. So Nathan found a flat rock and used 3 sticks to build a figure 4 deadfall trap. He tied a piece of jerky to the trigger stick. If the rat goes in to eat, the rock drops and crushes it instantly. This trap has shown up many times in past seasons, and it works really well on small rodents. At dusk, his line finally paid off. Nathan hauled up a catfish close to 5 pounds. That alone would keep food worries off his back for 2 days. His earlier frustration faded, and his confidence in fishing came back. Nathan hung fresh bait on the hook, hoping for steady, long-term results. This time, he didn't flip rocks for scorpions. Instead, he smashed the catfish head for brain goo, then hung a big chunk of fish head on the hook. Looks like he was aiming for a monster fish. No wonder he comes from a hunting family. His moves were never sloppy. After sitting by the lake a while with no action, Nathan tied the line to a branch, went back to camp, and put the fish head in a pot for dinner. One of his 10 items was a Himalayan salt rock. Food with salt always tastes better. That earlier fish head soup from Chutan made him sick. Nathan wasn't grilling for a reason. When you grill fish, the fat drips out. That's lost nutrition and calories. But if you boil a fish head soup, you don't lose that. You absorb all the nutrition instead. And drinking soup also helps with hydration. 2 birds, 1 stone. Lately, he hadn't pulled in much exciting protein. He'd only eaten 2 crabs caught by chance in the river. Early the next morning, he boiled water to make acacia tea. While the tea cooled, Will made a bright, colorful lure. The white part was a tag from his underwear. Feathers went in the middle, and the red part was thread cut from his waistband. Because he didn't know what kind of bait the fish liked here, only constant testing would tell him. After drinking tea, Will goes fishing by the lake. And on the way, he finds an antelope skeleton. Based on the level of decay, it died less than 2 weeks ago, and it was killed by some predator. After a while, he reaches the lake. The new lure works pretty well. Before long, the line gets hit hard. Sadly, Will got too excited while reeling. He missed the timing. In the end, he could only watch the fish slip off the hook and swim free. After that disappointment, Will reset fast. At least it proved the lure was actually working, 1 step closer to landing a fish. But when Will stayed confident and kept waiting, a long time passed with no more bites. Still no meat today. His protein cravings got intense. So after failing at fishing, Will started flipping rocks like Nathan did and found a scorpion underneath. The difference is, Nathan used scorpions as bait, but Will tossed his into the fire. As a primitive skills fanatic, he didn't mind eating scorpion. And honestly, it tasted pretty good. Even burned, it still had a seafood-like flavor. Now let's look at another contestant, Baha. As the lake level slowly rose, the water was only 2 meters from his shelter. And so today, he had to move to the shade of another tree. When he built his tent, Baha planned for this, so his shelter was built simple. He could carry it into the shade without taking it apart. After moving camp, he went to gather firewood. Baha walked 3 kilometers on his own. The new spot had dry wood scattered everywhere. With a little effort, he could pile up plenty nearby. Then he boiled water in camp and let it cool. His hunt didn't go smoothly. Even though he saw lots of tracks, he didn't spot any legal game. So he decided to fish. Baha didn't bring hooks or fishing line because he had hundreds of meters of braided cord. As for hooks, Baha figured he could improvise. On day 3, he found a piece of wire. He heated it in the fire, then used his multi-tool to bend it into a hook. Now his fishing gear was ready. He didn't choose a long set line. He figured fish would cruise close to shore, so if he placed bait just under the surface, his odds would be high. But when he tested it for real, it didn't go as planned. Daytime water temps near shore were too high. Why would fish come in? If anything bit, that would be the surprise. When night fell, Baha had to go hungry. All he could think about was, if only he could catch a fish to kill the cravings. Suddenly, splashing sounded along the shore. Baha shot up, weak but moving, and ran to check. No doubt about it. That was a fish hitting the line. He landed a fish weighing over 2 kilos. Now at least he wouldn't sleep with an empty stomach tonight. That catfish could provide almost 1,700 calories. The head has the most fat and moisture, but it spoils the fastest. So Baha cut off the head and ate it. He didn't choose to grill it. Instead, he put the cleaned fish head into the pot and cooked it in water. One of Baha's 10 items was salt. That kept the fish head soup from being too nasty. Plus, he was starving. His body needed fat, and the protein cravings were intense. He drank the fish head soup and didn't throw up. He even yelled, "This is amazing!" After drinking the soup and eating the fish, Baha felt nothing but gratitude for the desert. The scene cuts to Katie. After Cactus took Will out, Katie tried it too. She burned off the outer spines, cut it into pieces, and fried it in a pan. Maybe it's her body. Or maybe it was a different cactus species. The method looked pretty similar, but Katie was fine. Today she saw water antelope feeding on the hillside near camp. With intel like that, Katie just watched from far away, thinking once she understands them better, she'll pick a spot and set an ambush. For now, fishing is her main way to get food. She went to the lake, cast her line, and waited. Lately, Katie's been living on leaves, acacia seeds, and cactus. Right now, she really wants meat. Her fishing spot had a lot of rocks. Crabs and other creatures live there, which could draw catfish in to feed. Sadly, the spot was good, but nothing bit. After waiting 3 hours, she couldn't take it anymore. Just as she was about to head back, luck showed up. Katie saw a heron hunting for food. She wanted to see if she could take it. She grabbed her bow at once and found a tree to hide behind. Slowly, she crept closer. From behind the tree, she drew and fired. But she was still too far away. No surprise, she missed. With no choice, she went back to camp and kept eating wild greens boiled in water. At dusk, Katie still didn't give up. Before it got dark, she went back to the lake and set a long fishing line. This alone chance was priceless. She wanted that $500,000 to buy a house and live with her 2 kids, a more stable life. 2 days passed. Katie got up early and spotted something big on the trail. She noticed the ground was littered with antelope droppings. That means they used this trail to reach the lake to drink. She used the chance to hide in the brush and set an ambush. But before hunting deer, Katie had something more important to do: build a long-term shelter. Otherwise, even if she got meat, she'd have nowhere to store it right. She picked an open spot in front of an acacia tree. Her shelter idea was similar to Pablo's plan before he tapped out: bury branches in holes and pin them with rocks, making an overall circle layout. Then she tied the tops together to form an arched frame. Finally, she just had to throw the tarp over it. She used cord braided from tree bark to lash the poles. She stripped bark and pulled out the rough inner fibers. After soaking it in lake water for a while, she twisted those fibers into cord. Right as she stepped out, gathering branches and rushing to finish her shelter, Katie noticed rain clouds building on the horizon. Looks like a heavy storm is coming. Deciding to lock in a shelter right now was the smart call. Now let's check on Douglas. Daytime temps in the Karu Desert hit nearly 40 degrees Celsius, but who would have thought at night it can drop to just 5 degrees Celsius? For Douglas, nearly 60, that felt brutal. This season, contestants didn't bring heavy insulated sleeping bags. Instead, they chose light camping bags. That meant Douglas suffered through the last 2 nights, so today he put reinforcing the shelter first. So far, he's had 0 success hunting or fishing. Luckily, his survival kit included some jerky. Without it, Douglas wouldn't be standing right now. Near camp, there were some reed bushes. He harvested those reeds and wove them into the shelter gaps for insulation. Douglas had a happy childhood. His parents bought a house in Kentucky with thousands of acres of forest outside. He played in those woods and picked up a lot of primitive skills without even trying. Back then, it brought him joy. Now, he hoped it would bring him $500,000 for a comfortable old age. Season 12 of Alone in South Africa's Karu Desert really surprised everyone. People thought Africa would be a hunter's paradise, packed with game, but nobody expected the animals to be so alert that contestants couldn't get close. On top of that, the dry heat demands tons of water just to keep your body working. So, every day, contestants spend a lot of time just boiling water, and that limits everything else. Only 1 week in, the 4 contestants had already tapped out, shattering the Africa survival fantasy people had. Can the remaining contestants hold on and find a sustainable way? Let's keep watching. On the morning of day 9, Nathan's figure 4 trap had been triggered. Surprisingly, it wasn't a rat. It was an elephant shrew. They live in savanna and rocky areas, one of Earth's living fossils, supposedly unchanged for at least 23 million years. Its size hasn't changed. Nathan hung the crushed elephant shrew on a hook to see if he could hook an even bigger catfish. From his research this time of year in the Karu, rain is very rare. So he didn't rush to build a shelter. He put all his energy into getting food. One of Nathan's 10 items was soap. A lot of people wouldn't get it, but he figured in hot Africa, bacteria spread fast, and with animals everywhere they eat and poop all over the place. Carrying soap and staying clean helps keep germs out. By 4 p.m., the air started to cool. Nathan threw on a jacket and went back to check his line. One look at that tight line, and he knew using elephant shrew bait wasn't a bad call. Earlier, Nathan used a catfish head as bait, thinking catfish with sharp teeth would eat their own kind. But no fish bit. Truth is, they usually only eat each other when food gets scarce. Now, with elephant shrew bait, it worked right away. That catfish was estimated at 7 to 8 kilos. Nathan found a sustainable path. Kaylee, who dropped a 100-kilo wild boar, was making an artificial lure from paracord to get ready to fish. Before heading out, she cut a strip of elastic from her wristband. Ayn turned it into a hair tie and pulled her hair into a neat bun. Then Kylie went to the lake and cast her line. Smoked pork tastes good, but it's too low in fat. To last long out here, you need enough fat. Your body weight depends on it. Even during digestion, breaking down protein also needs fat. And in the wild, the best fat comes from fish. Kylie is a seasoned angler. She's been fishing since she was a kid. Over the years, she's fished south in Costa Rica and up north in Alaska. So on a desert lake in the Karu, Kylie still believed she'd get results. After who knows how long, her line suddenly got hit with a hard pull. This is a small tigerfish. Don't judge it by the looks. It's actually twice as strong as salmon and one of the toughest, most aggressive fish in South Africa. After 10 days of dried pork, today she finally got a change. Kylie immediately prepped the fish, cut it into pieces, and set it on a rock beside the fire, craving fat like crazy. Fish also has fatty acids and omega-3s, which help wounds heal and help prevent infection. You could say it's top-tier survival food. While the fish cooked, a thick cloud slowly rolled in. Kylie thought it was the dry season, so rain was unlikely. So even as the sky changed, she didn't worry. That night, she stayed at camp and ate fish until she was satisfied. The meat was soft and rich, and she loved it. Based on how things looked, Kylie said she could last a long time. The next morning at 9:30, after eating her fill, she went to the lake. After days alone in camp, she felt a little boxed in. Wild ducks often wandered around the lake, so Kylie wanted a chair by the water to enjoy the view. She used green paracord to lash 4 tripod legs. Then she laid 2 logs as crossbars and set a few smaller sticks between them as a seat. Simple, but it worked. Now the camera cuts back to Will. After drinking his morning tea at camp, he got ready to head out and find bait for fishing. Seems like every contestant could feel it. South African animals are extremely cautious. So, they all agreed fishing was the most important food strategy. Under these rocks, anything could be hiding. Easy to catch scorpions or deadly cobras and other dangerous snakes. Will noticed the sky was usually clear, and now clouds were showing up, but he figured it was temporary. How could it rain in the dry season desert? So he stuck to his original survival plan until he could lock in a steady food source. He didn't even consider building a shelter. Before long, Will found a thick-tailed scorpion hiding under a rock. This yellow thick-tailed scorpion is highly venomous. A sting can cause breathing problems, and within an hour it can lead to collapse. To stay safe, he didn't poke at it. Instead, he used a shovel to dig around it. If he got lucky, he'd dig up earthworms. After a few digs, he found a fat worm. Now he could finally go fish. Compared to the other contestants, who kept hooking catfish and small bream, Will seemed pretty unlucky. He switched spots, but nothing happened. Still, his mindset stayed positive. He believed steady testing was the key to success. Finally, he got a payoff in a small pond. This catfish wasn't even a kilo, but to Will it meant everything. Now, let's look at the white-bearded old man. He made a fake lure out of a scarf getting ready to fish. After finishing his rod, one of his 10 items was jerky weighing 2 pounds. So far, he still hadn't scored any hunting wins. Besides edible plants and acacia seeds, Douglas was basically living off 2 bags of jerky. He'd already dropped nearly 14 pounds. He wanted to catch a fish as a reward. He was born into a happy family. And as a kid, his dad took him fishing all the time, and he learned by doing. Those lessons taught Douglas how to live and work. Even though the years have passed and he's now old, the whole family still meets every Thursday, because when he was young, his dad taught him to value family. Sadly, every contestant out there had caught fish. Only Douglas was still stuck at 0. By the afternoon of day 12, Nathan found signs of wild boar. They were digging up wild tulip bulbs. Before he could make his next move, the dark clouds overhead got thicker and thicker. This time, Nathan didn't want to be stubborn. It looked like heavy rain was coming. And once again, the result surprised everyone. Just after 4:30 p.m., a hailstorm hit. Douglas was asleep in camp and got caught off guard. After dark, rain started falling in the contestants' area. Kylie built her shelter on a riverbed. At first, she didn't care. She said, honestly, she felt cozy as a bug in a cocoon, until the rain outside got harder and harder. Everyone got hit in different ways. Kylie got it the worst. She had to hold the tarp over her head so water wouldn't pool and collapse it. She looked down at the riverbed and saw it had turned into a flowing river. Everything on the ground was soaked. If she stayed, it could turn into a big problem. Kylie rushed out, moved her shelter up onto higher ground. Her sleeping bag and the clothes on her back were drenched. By morning, the rain had stopped. The chair she built yesterday became a drying rack. She laid her sleeping bag on it and hung up all her wet clothes to dry. You have to respect Kylie's patience. At that time, temps in the Karu dropped to 1 degree Celsius. Facing such a brutal situation, she didn't complain. She just focused on fixing camp and turning things around. Even though Kylie managed to build her shelter in time, this unfinished shelter was still wobbling. In today's storm, she wasn't doing anything else. First, she had to reinforce the shelter. So far, she'd only caught 1 fish on the first night. The next 10 days, she had no results and survived on plants. Kylie took branches cut nearby and slotted them into the round shelter frame as walls. The rest was covered with a tarp. That way, it could block some wind and rain. That night, it poured again, and it didn't stop until the morning of day 14. Douglas curled up in his shelter, cold, hungry, and shaking. Rain had soaked every piece of wood he could find. His fire had been out for 18 hours. Hunting in Africa was his dream. Earlier, Douglas's father was diagnosed with cancer. His dad didn't hold him back. He let him chase that dream. Right now, Douglas's wife and brother were with his dad. Even so, Douglas couldn't stop worrying about his father. Out here, survival was turning into a mess. The gloomy weather only deepened the dark thoughts. Douglas thought it over, then called to tap out. He decided to go home early to be with his dad. Sadly, his father passed away before he got home. Will pulled another catfish from the river, still small, but maybe enough fuel for today. Days of nonstop rain hit him hard too. This place made Will feel like he was on the coast. After eating 2 catfish in the last few days, he was getting the hang of it. Will decided to build a long-term shelter. Pike still under the same tree, he gathered rocks nearby to build a base. As Will was about to head out for more materials, he suddenly collapsed with no warning. He'd been eating well and sleeping fine. So why? Would Will be the next one to tap out? Let's keep watching. This is the most real survival show I've ever seen. 10 contestants are dropped into South Africa's Karu Desert, far from any people. Each person can only bring 10 limited tools. Whoever lasts to the end wins $500,000 from the show. It looks like there's mobile protein everywhere, but in reality, it's a massive trap. Land animals are insanely cautious. Getting close is way harder than in the Arctic zones. Like the heat and dryness also wear contestants down just trying to secure water. Then the rain hits and brings even more surprises. After half a month, half the contestants are out. Could this season end up the shortest ever? On day 2, Kylie shot a pig. Now she's starting to struggle. That heavy rain soaked all her gear, but she pushed through with pure grit. Next came the food shortage. That boar was almost gone. Now she could only think about food. She had to ration what meat was left. She hoped she could hunt something now. She left shelter and headed into the hills. Before long, she spotted 2 giraffes. By the rules, hunting giraffes is not allowed, so Kylie could only watch from a distance and sigh. She kept moving and heard a strange sound, like a pig call. Same as before, nothing in sight. Kylie could only ready her arrow. After a few more steps, she saw 2 pigs in the brush, but they were too far away, way out of bow range. Kylie moved in quietly, waiting for the first real chance to draw and shoot. But sadly, they spotted her and bolted right away. Their eyesight is poor, but their hearing is sharp. They must have heard something and sensed danger. Afterward, Kylie said straight up she had a chance, but the angle and distance weren't right to shoot instantly. She figured she'd just miss and let the animal escape without a clean kill. A wounded boar would die slowly in pain. That's not a hunter's ethics. The next day, Kylie set a long line by the lake. Since day 1, she's kept 2 habits. First, every morning she does push-ups. And before heading out, she makes sure she can still draw her bow. Lately, Kylie noticed drawing was getting harder. Clearly, her body was getting weaker. She didn't want to sit in shelter and suffer, so she started hunting as much as she could. She walked the flatter ground, trying to spot animals in the Karu Desert. The pigs that used to be around were gone. Maybe her hunting pressure scared them off. On this trip, she ran into an antelope. By the rules, to take one down, you need a bow with over 60 pounds of draw weight. Kylie's bow was only 50 pounds. Oh, so the animals she could legally hunt were mainly wild-born antelope of similar size. She covered a huge loop and got nothing. Kylie dragged herself back to camp, tired and hungry. Then she headed to the lake to check her line. She saw it pulled into the weeds. At first she thought the current did it, but nope, she'd hooked a fish. I caught a fish, slow and steady. I caught a catfish. One loss got paid back by something else. That line she said in the morning caught her a catfish by noon. Her spirits shot up. For Kylie, who'd been sinking, this was water in the desert. She set a flat rock by the fire, then laid the cleaned fish pieces on it, chopped small for roasting. The omega-3 fats in catfish would help bring her back. Then Kylie pulled out the rice and salt she brought. One of her 10 items was a combo pack: rice, salt, and sugar. That's not strange at all. Others brought soap and jerky too. These all come from the show as limited items contestants can choose. While roasting, the smoke burned her eyes. She stood up and stepped away. Seconds later, that rock exploded. Fish flew everywhere. Heat turned trapped moisture inside the rock into steam, expanding fast and blasting pressure outward. That's what made it burst. Lucky for Kylie, she'd turned away from the smoke. If rock shards hit her face and injured her, she'd be forced to tap out. She picked up the scattered fish pieces, cooked rice, and mixed it all together. That's a solid meal. Kylie took a bite and said flat out, it tasted amazing. That fish and rice bowl filled her back up, enough energy to back her next hunt. In the end, she was determined to finish that whole bowl of fish and rice. She even licked the bowl a few times, and then the shortcuts to Nathan. He used weeds to make a quick ramp under a tree. The rain a few days ago really surprised him. Even though he made it through fine, Nathan didn't dare stick to his old survival plan anymore. He'd been burning all his time and energy just to get food. Right now, he still had plenty of juice, so he decided to build a long-term shelter. And since the area was covered in broken slate, next he planned to use that slate to build a 31.5-inch tall stone hut. The rocks weren't flat on both sides, so to keep the shelter tight and solid for the long haul, Nathan packed sand into the gaps between the walls. That blocks wind and rain from pushing in and levels out the rough spots between the stones. After stacking about 5 or 6 layers, he called it for the day. The next morning around 9, Nathan flipped a rock and found a scorpion. He wasn't planning to eat it. He wanted it for bait. The recent rain made scorpions vanish like they were never there. He needed good bait and didn't have much. But today, he lucked out. His deadfall trap crushed a rodent. Plus, he had that scorpion. Now he could run 2 lines at the lake, then go back to building the stone hut. Nathan knew from past seasons a lot of people quit by overbuilding shelter, but he knew how to keep it balanced. Right now, his calorie burn, energy, and overall condition were solid. The Karu Desert has huge day-night temperature swings. How a stone shelter can hold heat at night, that pays off long-term. As long as you pace yourself, building that stone hut won't be a losing trade. Today, Nathan raised the walls again about as high as yesterday afternoon. Then he headed to the lake to check his lines. But this time, no catfish took the bait. After the sky cleared, Baja finally left camp. He hadn't hunted for 3 days, and that big catfish was gone. Now camp had no food left. Baja took a route he'd never used, Kier trying to push deeper into the land to learn the local animals and their patterns. After a long hike, he spotted a big antelope. Its horns can grow up to 6 feet long in a spiral, and the biggest can hit around 660 pounds. But what Baja saw was a zoomed-in camera shot. In real distance, it was way beyond bow range. Still, sharp eyes. He tried climbing the hillside to get an angle. Best case, close to about 30 meters for a shot. But that was wishful thinking. Out here, the system works too well. Prey animals don't move slow at the bottom of the food chain. As Baja crept up step by step, the big antelope vanished without a trace. When danger hits, they use their coat color to blend into the landscape. It's hard for any predator to pick them out. Baja was frustrated with himself. He wasn't getting enough food. If this kept up, he wouldn't last long. By 4 p.m., Baja dragged back to camp. He picked some leaves near the brush. Cooked up, they eat like spinach and salad greens. But that little bit isn't even enough for a kid, let alone Baja, a full-grown big man. By the afternoon of day 16, the contest had reached a new point. Baja had to put on a wool sweater just to not feel cold. Overall, once night falls, it's going to get seriously cold. So before it gets dark, he wants to build a heater inside his shelter. Baja finds the clay here is perfect for making bricks. So starting on day 4, he began shaping clay bricks. Now he's going to use them to build a fire pit. It's all designed in a U shape, using wet clay like natural cement. He stacks the bricks upward, layer by layer. That night, Baja stares at the stars and gets quiet. Winning or losing means everything to him. The $500,000 isn't for luxury. It's to support a big family. Not just his wife and kids, but also his late sister's 2 children. Everyone's counting on Baja. He feels that weight to take care of them and give them a better future. But right now, his survival situation is rough. He hopes his sister up in the sky will help him win this thing. He's the real deal. Then D suddenly froze while building his shelter. His whole body dropped backward. It took a while before he came to and stood up. He couldn't figure out why. He'd been eating and sleeping fine. After thinking it through, he blamed dehydration. The rain cooled the Karu desert days. That cold, damp weather can dehydrate you without you noticing. When you're dehydrated, blood volume drops and your blood pressure falls. That drop can starve the brain of oxygen and knock you out cold. Duff feels lucky he fell into a bush with no thorns, so his upper body didn't slam hard into the ground. If that blackout hit somewhere else, he knows he'd have face planted, maybe even cracked his head. On he rushes back into the shelter to rehydrate and rest a bit. By 4 p.m., the more he thinks about it, the scarier it gets. That fainting spell was seriously dangerous. He has to take his safety for real now. At this point in the challenge, his pride isn't satisfied. D wants to win, but not at the cost of his life. $500,000 versus a lifetime with the one you love. Everyone knows the answer. After thinking it through, D called the show and tapped out. Now, the latest US. Season is heading into the semifinals. Unlike past seasons that could run up to 70 days, this one is only halfway through the month and only 4 contestants are left. First, South African animals are extremely wary, making hunting far tougher than grouse and rabbits near the Arctic Circle. Second, the hot, dry climate forces contestants to spend tons of time just getting water. A lot of people have never been to Africa and can't adapt, so they drop early. Nathan's dad is a well-known survival expert in the US. He grew up under that influence, so his skills are naturally strong. He still can't get close enough to hunt those wary animals. Oh, but his fishing results are the best of the group. He's landed 7 to 8 kilogram catfish more than once. By watching baboon droppings, he figures out they've been chewing on buffalo berries. Nathan thinks, we're both primates, so if they can eat it, I'll try it too. It's not sweet or juicy, but it still gives solid energy, about 240 calories per 100 grams. He's not planning to live off this stuff. He just needs something in his system. He'll budget his moves based on how much energy he's burning. Today, the fishing line is dead, and it's been that way for a while. So he pauses the rock house build and goes out to hunt. African game is smart and cautious, so he doesn't stalk around with the bow looking for targets. Instead, he hides in a bush and waits for prey to pass. It saves energy, but the boredom drains you mentally. He sits there forever, and not a single animal walks by all afternoon. That night, he hikes to the other side of the lake to fish. After setting one rod, Nathan holds the handline on the shoreline. Time crawls, and it's brutal. So he distracts himself by thinking about family back home, about his son Potter, gone 6.5 years. At 11, Potter had an accident and suffered brain damage. After that, emotions and behavior were hard to control day to day. To numb the pain, Potter got hooked on meth, and in the end, an overdose took him too soon. That grief never leaves Nathan, but it also reminds him life is precious. Still no bites on the line, so he runs to check the rod and finds it's holding a big fish. This catfish is nearly a meter long, food for the next few days. Now Nathan can go back to building the stone house. The wild boar Kirei shot is almost gone now, and hunger is closing in. Every morning, she wakes up and goes straight out hunting. She sticks to flatter ground so walking doesn't burn too much energy. She sees animals almost every trip, but most of them aren't legal to take because her bow is only 50 pounds. By the show's rules, she can only hunt animals in the wild boar range. Like last time she failed to take those 2 boars. This trip she's confident she'll get another shot. But the more hope you carry, the harder it hits. She walks for a long time and still sees nothing. Instead, she finds a burrow collapsed by rain, which likely means the boar den got destroyed, so they moved somewhere else. She regrets that on day 6 she didn't take the chance to drop a second boar, because then she could have sat tight for at least 3 weeks. More back then she didn't want to get greedy and take more than she needed. Now she can't find them at all. The next day she decides to hunt water birds by the lake, but those birds fly out to feed elsewhere, so she has to wait lakeside for them to come back. All day, only one bird passes far out. By noon, there's still no clean shot. She remembers how easy it felt back then, sitting here with jerky in hand like it was nothing. In just half a month, this place is already becoming her breaking point. No matter what, her only weapon is a 50-pound bow. Kelly doesn't believe she can't survive in Africa, and in a land this full of life. But the truth is, she can't find a thing. Nothing moves in her line of sight. She's never been this hungry, and she can barely draw the bow anymore. For a moment, she breaks down crying. Then suddenly, something shifts. She hears movement close by, and it's a tortoise. The bald guy once ate roasted turtle on a hunt in Africa. At first, she thinks it's a free meal, but every tortoise here is protected by law. Still, Kylie feels better because she thinks the tortoise is adorable. Slow, harmless, yet it survives out here, and that lifts her spirits. Thanks to it, she regains a positive mindset. Cut to Katie. She set a few rock traps around camp, same style as Nathan's figure 4 trap, built for small rodents. Katie wants a few mice as bait for Catfish. Antelope roam near camp, but when she hunts, they bolt faster than rabbits. Watching prey that's close but never close enough drives her crazy, so she puts her hope back on fishing. Those rains a few days ago taught her not to ignore shelter, so now she has to finish it. She mixes clay with lake water like natural mortar, smearing it up the stick wall. That way, once it dries, it becomes a solid barrier. Pablo's easily the worst off right now. He didn't bring a ferro rod, and bow drill fire in a contest like this is brutal. He has to babysit the fire non-stop, waking up 7 or 8 times a night to feed it. No one sleeps well like that. Cold, hungry, exhausted. Every night is torture. He just waits for sunrise. Baha keeps moving with his bow, trying not to treat survival chores like a challenge, like food, fire, wood, and boiling water. He treats them like normal life tasks. It helps steady the mind and keep going. And finally, luck turns. Baha finds fresh boar tracks and follows them to a den. The ground around it is torn up. He's sure boars are inside. He comes up with a smart plan. Smoke them out, then take the shot. Problem is, it's 3 kilometers from camp. How do you carry fire safely that far? First, he goes back and gathers a bundle of dry grass. Then he grabs a chunk of dried animal dung and burns it down to a slow smolder. He clamps it between 2 rocks. Dung holds an ember so he can carry it 3 kilometers to the den. He shoves the burning grass into the hole. Now he just waits for the smoke to work. Bow in hand, eyes locked on the entrance, listening hard. But 2 hours pass and nothing comes out. He tries the same with another den, stuffing burning grass inside, but the result is the same. No movement inside at all. That night, he goes back to the same job, guarding the fire. It's miserable. Negative thoughts start creeping in. His mood sinks. Baha wants the prize to lift his family's life, but he knows he can't get enough food. Out here, he can't be the support his family needs. They're his safe place too. Barely hanging on is just suffering. After thinking it through, he calls and taps out. It's now day 23. Nathan gets up early and fishes for hours and lands a massive catfish, nearly a meter long, weighing around 7 to 8 kilos. Funny thing is, a smaller catfish hit first. It stripped the bait clean, then the bigger catfish swallowed it whole. Lucky for Nathan, the big one took the hook and couldn't get free. Even he didn't see that coming. He feels like he's found his fishing rhythm again. A few hours every morning and evening, and he's getting results. He must be dialing in the timing and technique. That fish gives him close to 10,000 calories. Nathan cuts off a chunk, takes it back, and cooks it. He lifts the lid, and the smell hits hard. Hunger is the best seasoning. He chews that golden fish slow, savoring every bite. He can't even explain how good it is. After the fish and a few sips of broth, he's full, and he goes right back to finish the stonehouse. Heavy work takes heavy fuel, and the fish disappears faster than he expected. Next morning, after breakfast, that 1-meter catfish is down to just 1 meal left. Full and hydrated, he goes back to building, hoping the finished shelter is actually livable. But the walls still aren't tall enough. Nathan has to raise them higher. He won't use slate for the rest. He switches to metamorphic stone. Bigger, flatter, easier to stack. Today, he's determined to finish that wall section. Pure calorie math says building like this is a loss, but he says he'll control the pace. Food stays priority 1. Get food without losing too much time. Nathan thinks this season could go long. As time passes, a safe, comfortable shelter will pay him back. If he can keep landing fish, he sees no reason to quit. But then something goes wrong. Sand mortar between 2 rock rows won't seal water, and in dry conditions, it's unstable. The higher he builds, the easier it collapses. Nathan clearly missed that danger. For a second, it gives him chills. Staring at that struggling half-built structure, he wonders if burning all those calories was worth it. He puts that question aside for now. Nathan walks to the lake to check his 2 lines, and bad luck hits again. Both hooks are snagged. He can't pull them back. He's already lost 9 hooks. Now he only has 8 left. To keep surviving, he has to cut the losses somehow. So Nathan throws on oversized shorts and dives in. He recovers 1 hook, bait and all, but the other one is jammed between big rocks. He has to leave it and cut the line just to save what he can. Kelly also set 2 lines by the lake. Her breakfast is a piece of dried pork, but it's not even enough to get stuck in her teeth, let alone fill her up. Kelly only has 10 pieces of dried meat left like that, so she plans to rest a few days and stop hunting for now. She's a hunting guide who takes clients into the woods to hunt deer and elk. On day 2, she dropped a wild boar, and she was proud of it. But she didn't plan the next step. She didn't push the momentum, and she didn't build a long-term shelter. She just sat, ate, and got passive. The next day, she caught a beetle while walking. Kelly tries it as a topwater bait to see if she can hook a fish to eat. Same spot where she caught that small tigerfish. During the wait, she sees ripples not far away, fish moving. She's been here so long, something should happen. If fish are active over there, she should move and cast there. But Kelly stays put. Ripples keep popping on the surface, but her line comes up empty. Another day passes, and she's fed up with fishing. Kelly takes her bow out to hunt. No clue how long she walks. She gets tired and stops to rest and spots 2 wild boars down in the riverbed. She quietly tracks behind them. They don't notice her. Kelly takes her shot and looses an arrow, but she misses. She's too weak to draw the bow all the way. The arrow doesn't even reach the boar. To steady herself, Kelly sits on a high rock and looks out at the view. She joined this to test her limits. She can't quit just because it's hard. At least she has shelter, water, and a fire. Katie's breakfast is soup made from buffalo thorn leaves, water, and acacia seeds. The first night, she caught a big fish. She thought that would be her new normal, but it ended up being her only bright moment. More than 20 days later, Katie still can't catch a single fish. She's living on wild fruit and greens. She's dropped 20 pounds. After breakfast, Katie heads out to hunt. She's done believing in fishing. Us animals out here won't let you get close, so she finds a hide on the mountain, downwind from the animals. Katie wants to stay hidden in ambush, but 3 hours go by. Nothing shows. While she's gone, a troop of baboons raids her camp. They were probably looking for food, but they find out she's poorer than they are. When she returns and sees all the tracks, she knows something's wrong. She checks her gear and confirms they only took a hat. If they'd stolen her pot for boiling water and cooking, she'd probably have no choice but to tap out. After that, she pins the tarp edges down tight with rocks and starts gathering edible plants nearby. During this whole challenge, Katie has been running almost entirely on this kind of food. This haul includes bitter kale and mint. Then she finds some grass. The seeds are edible. That's her carb source. And finally, she finds wild garlic in the sand by the lake. That night, she makes soup with wild garlic, mint, and acacia seeds. While the veggie soup cooks, Katie crushes the grass seeds. She adds water into the pot lid so tomorrow it can be eaten like porridge. On day 23, Katie finally uses mud to seal up the shelter walls. Energy from those grass seeds seems higher than we thought. No, she doesn't feel as tired today. She hears movement from animals nearby, stops, and watches carefully. She spots 4 warthogs on the hillside, a family, 2 adults, and 2 young. Katie gets ready and follows right away. The closest they get is about 50 meters. Katie isn't sure she can hit the shot. In the end, she can only watch that hog family vanish into the brush and lose that once-in-a-lifetime chance. So she goes back to eating greens and berries and keeps talking herself through it. With no animal food, living on plants alone obviously can't last long. Katie's mindset and body are still strong. The weak spot is getting meat. If she can land a few fish or drop an animal, then the winner is still up in the air. In the US version of Alone in South Africa, Season 12 is now at the finale. Only 3 contestants are left: Kelly, who dropped a hog on day 2, Nathan, who's been catching fish, and Katie, the plant eater. Who will take the $500,000 prize? Let's keep watching. Nathan's stone house collapses during the build. After he settles down, he has to fix it. To keep it from collapsing a second time, Nathan carefully repairs the wall corner. With steady work, it's back in shape. This time he won't build higher. He goes straight to finishing the roof. South Africa isn't the Arctic, so there aren't many trees to choose from. By the lake, far from camp, Nathan finds a dead, dry acacia tree. He didn't bring a saw or an axe, so for big wood like this, he can only use fire, then snap it to the length he wants. The next day, he hauls the log back to camp, sets it on top of the stone house as a support beam, then ties smaller branches onto it, linking them together. That forms the roof frame, strong enough to hold weight. Finally, he digs up a big load of clay, adds water, and mixes it into wild cement, then smears it over the roof. He works until the afternoon of day 26, and the stone house is finally finished. Now Nathan can focus on food. Meanwhile, Kelly heads downhill, moving faster and faster. She can't even draw her bow anymore, but she still has to go out every day. Kelly knows her fishing hasn't been good, and now she can't pull the bow. The days ahead turn into a hunger game. She tries to stay upbeat. Every day she takes a walk to clear the dark mood inside the shelter. On the trail, she sees an antelope split off from the herd on the hillside. You can hear it from 100 meters away. Soon she spots a few wild boars ahead, and some antelope too. All of them are legal game for her bow, animals she's allowed to take. But Kelly has no strength left to draw. She can only watch them pass by. Frustrated, she turns back to fishing. Kelly gathers some maggots from the carcass of a dead wild boar. She tries using them as bait to see if she can catch fish. Those wriggling maggots should lure fish in for sure. She doesn't want to quit this challenge easily. She wants to see how much courage and grit she has, and how long she can last with resources running out. At noon, Kelly goes to check her line. Sure enough, nothing has bitten all day. So far, she's only caught 2 fish. Right now, it feels like they've stopped biting. She has no strength left for anything else. Her body is fading, and the weight keeps dropping. While walking, Kelly notices a few green pods hanging on an acacia tree. They're acacia seeds. A lot are already ripe and fallen on the ground. They're high in protein and fiber and can be cooked. Maybe hunger made her think stupid because she doesn't try grinding the pods into food. Instead, she picks the last green pod still on the tree. Kelly eats a few pods and a little wild garlic, but that clearly won't fill her up. So she takes her fishing line to a small pond 800 meters away. This is where she's caught fish before. But no one knows the outcome. She uses reeds to make a fishing rod. Once dried, they turn brittle. A little force and it snaps. Kelly yells out she can't believe it. She dragged her exhausted body 800 meters just to end up like this. Day 27 is her mom's birthday. From past seasons, days like this often come with a little luck. Kelly believes she won't be like them because in South Africa there are many animals you can't touch and you can't set snare traps. She also has no strength left to draw her bow. She hopes a simple walk might bring food dropping from the sky. She pulls out her last piece of dried pork. Once she eats this, her rations are truly gone. Kelly fights to keep her thoughts and emotions steady, trying to hang on longer in this game. Cut to Katie. That morning in South Africa, it's only 7 degrees Celsius. Sitting by the fire to warm up, Katie forces herself to eat something to get strength back. No meat, of course. She's still eating the buffalo leaf greens she gathered, or acacia seeds and African greens. She's been living on this for over 20 days. Her lips are pale and cracked in the African sun. Katie truly hates this plant diet now. She keeps craving meat. But her fishing luck is even worse than Kelly's, and hunting brings nothing close enough. Today, Katie decides to hike 6.4 kilometers to a lake, hoping to find clams there or other animals that never showed up near camp and maybe set up an ambush. She feels that place will have different resources, enough to flip her bad situation around. On the way, Katie spots porcupine signs, gnaw marks on thorny branches. She hasn't seen that once since the challenge began. A porcupine moves slow, easy prey. That clue gets her excited. She moves along the rocky shoreline, loose rubble everywhere. She has to step carefully. That slows her down and raises the risk. Then the rock under her foot shifts and she goes down hard. Her hand lands on a thorn bush and a few thorns punch right in. By 2 p.m., she's only made it halfway at this pace. If she reaches the lake, she won't make it back to camp before dark. Katie underestimated how brutal this hike would be. No choice. She turns back empty-handed and won't return until noon tomorrow. She feels the lakeshore has to hold better resources. Deep down, she can't let go of the hope that place brings. At this point in the challenge, Katie doesn't even want to make plans anymore, because even with a plan, she still can't pull off a real win when it comes to food. So she follows her gut instead and heads toward the mouth of the lake, hoping for a surprise. This time, Katie doesn't take the rocky shoreline. She chooses the ridgeline, trying to go around the obstacles. While moving, she spots fresh droppings on the ground. That's good news, no question. Not long after, an antelope shows up in the brush. Katie sees it first and drops fast to stay hidden. But closing in on an animal that alert is a challenge. Right when she's stuck, the antelope actually walks closer on its own. Katie feels the moment is here and starts to draw. She doesn't notice her clothes snagged on acacia thorns. When she pulls, one mistake makes the arrow drop. The prey hears it and bolts. That crushes Katie. She feels empty and out of fight. She turns back to camp to rest. After more than 20 straight days of plant food, anyone would break down. Katie complains inside her shelter like she'll never be able to kill an animal that weighs over 100 kilos. This life feels like fate, and she has to learn something through the pain. Time reaches day 28. Nathan finishes the final work on his stone house. He has a coffee habit back home, but there are no coffee beans in the Karu, so he roasts buffalo fruit and grinds it down. It doesn't have caffeine, but it's calorie-dense and boosts energy. At first light, Nathan uses leftover materials to build a bed inside the stone house. It saves cleanup time and makes camp life easier. When he's done, his buffalo fruit tea is already boiling. He sips his morning drink and thinks about family to pass the time. Last night, Katie dreamed about steak. She dreamed she had meat and went fishing. Because what you crave all day, you dream at night. Her hunger for meat is on a whole new level now. This morning, she feels colder than usual. She thinks it's because she's lost so much weight. She's down 28 pounds now, and just stepping out wipes her out. The thought of more wild greens and berries makes her feel sick. She can't do this anymore, but she can't change the reality. Katie feels she's done everything she can to stay. Anything past this isn't toughness, it's just stubbornness. For her long-term health, she decides to let it go and calls to tap out on day 28. The next morning, the Karu drops to an unreal -2 degrees Celsius. The water in Kogi's pot is frozen solid. A toothbrush is extra gear outside the 10-item limit. She's getting thinner, her circulation is worse, and her body is super sensitive to cold. After brushing, Kelly usually goes out for a walk. She's eaten her last piece of dried pork. Now she's truly out of food. Fishing every day comes up empty. She's tried all kinds of bait, but nothing works. In truth, the area where Kelly lives, her area is packed with resources. She runs into more animals than the other contestants, but her bow is only a 50-pound draw, so most of them are out of reach. And on top of that, Kelly never built a solid plan for the whole challenge, so now she's burned through both her supplies and her strength, and she's stuck in a grind. Every day she walks outside to calm her nerves. She doesn't want to quit easily. She wants to fight to the end, use her last bit of energy. Nathan isn't doing much better. A few big catfish hit earlier, but the way he eats is unreal. In just a few days, it's all gone. Now, like Kelly, he's back to having no food. He sees ripples on the lake, but the 2 lines he set don't move at all. The pressure hits hard, especially when he stands up hungry and gets dizzy. That's his body waving the red flag. Low fuel. Looking around, he decides to try cactus. Only 2 people are left now. One mistake can cost you that $500,000, the grand prize. Cactus already took out 2 contestants earlier. Nathan still chooses to eat it, and you know the viewers are going to worry. First, he skewers the cactus with a stick, then holds it over the fire to burn off the spines. After that, he drops it in a pot with water and boils it soft. Same method Will used before Cactus knocked him out on day 6. Maybe everyone's body reacts different. Some contestants, like Kelly, Katie, and Baja, all ate Cactus too and didn't get sick. Same here. Nathan's fine. That night, he goes to the lake to fish, but gets nothing. By day 32, night or early morning, he still can't land a fish. Lucky for him, he can at least sip homemade cactus fruit tea. Now, it's straight willpower. His mom's tough training from childhood made him stubborn and fearless. In the short term, quitting isn't even in his head. His plan is simple. Keep pushing. That night, he fishes again. One rod suddenly snaps loud. Same spot where he hooked his first catfish. This time he hauls up another one about the same size. For the next few days, food won't be a worry. He can keep surviving out here in the Karu. Meanwhile, Kogi is at the breaking point. She walks less than 5 minutes and she's already gasping. Back in the shelter, she lies down, even doing nothing. Every few minutes, she feels like she can't get enough air. She has to take deep breaths just to steady it. That's what a body near shutdown looks like. Dizzy, exhausted, short of breath. Kelly lies on her outdoor clothes trying to sun herself. But she's not a plant. She can't live off sunlight. Sunbathing won't fix this. She's a proud woman. She doesn't want the crew carrying her out. After everything she's done, she finally lets it go. No more proving anything to anyone, or to herself. On day 32, she calls the team and taps out. The next day, Nathan hangs a nameplate on his stone house. He pulls out a catfish head bigger than his cooking pot and gets it ready for lunch. He gets a notice for a medical check from the crew. A staff member walks in with Nathan's son, Isaiah. It's the same old move. The staff distracts him, and family shows up from behind for the surprise. Maybe Nathan never expected the challenge to end after just 1 month. He built that stone house for the long haul. Turns out, right when he was set up, the others tapped out. The moment he sees his son, he's overwhelmed. The 2 of them sit by the lake and share the catfish head. And just like that, Survival Season 12 comes to a strong close. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our next exciting survival videos. Finally, share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next adventure.